Hi, Kelly. Welcome to our soul chat today about animal communication. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Now, what part of Australia are you based in?
I'm actually located in the eastern suburbs in Sydney.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
We were speaking off air about our connection with the eastern suburbs. That's where a lot of my family resides as well. So that's exciting. And we were also speaking about how we worked out we went to school next door to each other
I
growing up.
know. Yeah, it's such a small world, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, those random occurrences that are not so random.
that's right. They're not. Yeah, and the eastern suburbs is a lovely place to live. So I
Mm.
feel very lucky to live here. Yeah.
Now, you are an animal communicator, and I would love for you to share with us what is an animal communicator?
Okay. So an animal communicator is somebody that communicates with animals in a two-way conversation. And so I actually do that using energy. And then using all my senses. So it's like an energetic connection. So it's kind of like how, when you talk on a mobile phone, it will connect with somebody else's, but you don't have like a line in between. So it's like that energy. And then I will use all my senses, and the same with the animal. So I will send, so an example, it would be like an image, so seeing or hearing or feeling, um, also smelling and like taste, although they're not as common, but all those things, like I use them all and not all at once, but I will use them all in a session. And so I will send the question or whatever I want to ask the animal in that format using my senses, and then they will send it back, their answer back to me or whatever they want to talk to me about.
Wow. So, how did you discover your ability to communicate with animals?
Um, I guess it's a bit of a long process in a way, but then it's not. It's also, I guess, realizing that, um, well, they say most people can actually do that. We lose a lot of it. So as children, we all do it in our natural sort of ability, and we're born like that. And then we kind of forget about it and change. So I think I've always been very in touch with animals and people, being highly sensitive. But it was more on my spiritual journey, and when I was discovering, I guess, myself, learning more about myself, self-love, self-development, and what some people say like a spiritual awakening, although I feel like you have many because there's always another layer. So I guess that's what started me with realizing that, and actually used an animal communicator myself um, during that process with some of my animals. And I just thought it was amazing. And then I was like, I want to be able to do that. So then I studied to do that. And yeah, and just it sort of brought me to here, I guess, to where I'm able to do that professionally.
So, do you believe that's something that we can all do if we wanted to communicate with animals this way?
Yes, I do. And I guess it's like, because, yeah, being psychic, so I am psychic as well, so I, do human work with humans as well in that sense. So yes, everyone is, if they develop it as well. Yeah, and I also am a medium, so I know with mediumship, usually you're born that way, or you might have a tragic circumstance that will initiate that. So I know with that it's a little different, people say, but yeah, definitely with psychic, yeah, it's energy, and we're surrounded in energy. So really, yes, we're all able to do it.
Now, can I ask, do you work with living animals as well as you mentioned that you're a medium as well? So I'm assuming you work with animals that have passed on as well. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. And although it's some of the most challenging and heartbreaking work, it's also some of the most rewarding and some of my favorite work, working with passed over animals. to be able to help people with closure or, you know, questions or guilt. There's so many things that go with animals that have passed over, and I have experienced the benefits of having a communicator do that for me. So that's also why I love being able to do it. I know how amazing it is. Yeah.
So how did you experience that for yourself? Did you want to share with us why you reached out to an animal communicator and how it helped you to grieve and navigate that process?
Yeah, and it's going back many, many years. I would say on many levels to learn, you know, there's many different aspects to why. Some of them would be that it helped my grieving process knowing that we were still connected. And although they're not here in the physical, and you grieve that you're still able to have some communication with them. Now, I wasn't doing animal communication like I am now at that time, but still, and when your emotions are involved, sometimes, you know, you don't have as clear information for yourself as well because you're so closely connected. But knowing that we were still connected, knowing that she was okay, and that she could communicate to me through somebody else, I don't know, it was just amazing. And just also you find out a lot about yourself. I think in passed over animal sessions, sometimes there's a lot of information that can come from the animal for you. I mean, even in living sessions, there are always benefits to the human, but I personally found there was a lot more from my dog who had passed, giving me guidance for my life purpose or where I was at in life. So yeah, I really liked that too.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. It's so amazing. Yeah, and it can give you peace. And sometimes, like research has shown that people are so connected to their animals that sometimes it is harder losing an animal than actually a person in their lives. And a lot comes under that umbrella because sometimes people feel guilty also about that. So I know that in a session when I can give that information to a client also, I think it can help them know that it's okay and they shouldn't feel guilty that they're feeling so, you know, sad or whatever emotion they have, that it's okay to feel that way.
Now we connected through a mutual client of ours when I recognised that he would benefit from meeting with yourself. And as I said to you when we were chatting, was I just trust my intuition, and I knew that I needed to refer him on to you, even though I haven't worked with you myself. It just felt like the right thing to do, and you've given him so much comfort just from that chat. So my question is, why do people feel like they need to find closure when an animal has passed on sometimes? What are the most common reasons why they come and see you?
Okay, and yeah, I love our mutual client, and thank you for referring him to me. I feel very blessed that I was able to work with him. So some of the main reasons, that's what you asked, didn't you? Yep. So I would say, depending on the circumstances, because animals usually do choose when, you know, when their time is ready to go. So one would be guilt, because if they've chosen, it doesn't matter, I guess, either way, if an owner has chosen to like euthanize, or if sometimes an owner might go away on a holiday or travel or do something different to their normal routine and their animal might pass away. And then they feel guilty that they've gone away. And I've had several clients over the years that have had that happen, and they're like, but I never went, and the time that I did, this happened. So, but the animal did that because they felt it was too painful for them to be there. Or, you know, then they didn't have to make a decision to have the animal put down because they just made that decision. So I guess guilt is a big thing. Knowing if they're in pain anymore and how they're feeling now. Yeah, and do they forgive their owner for the decisions that they've had to make? And they're so important for somebody who's grieving their animal. It makes me it's so emotional. Yeah, it's and so for me to be able to hold that space for a client, and give them the information from their animal. There's really no words actually to describe how amazing that is.
And so it is normal to have a close bond with an animal, isn't it? Like, I think for some people, they have a closer bond to animals in this world than they feel that they do with human beings. And is that normal? Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I feel that with my own animals. Our animals are usually with us more than any other person. Even if you're living with someone, still the animal really understands you. They see the side of you and they see all the things that you go through. So that's why we have such a close bond with them. It's like there's nothing hidden from them. It's like we have it, and we can't we're not meant to show everything to everybody, and that's okay. You know, we do have different levels of where everyone goes, but an animal sees everything. So I definitely think it's very healthy to have a close relationship with an animal. And I was actually had an article the other week of the importance of how having an animal is to society, and it has so many benefits to teaching everyone so many things. So yeah, I definitely do not think that anyone should ever feel that that is not normal. It's definitely normal. And that's why I love doing what I do, because we underestimate the importance of animals actually in our lives and in society.
I feel like too that they're our companions and they actually absorb a lot of our stresses. And I feel like that is why we're seeing more and more animals becoming sick, because they're absorbing our stress. And I share that with you because I see that in my own world. So I remember going through a difficult time with my husband, and I noticed for the month that he was going, and he was really upset that we had one dog at the time, Patch. He lay with Charles every time he came home, lay there with him, next to him for the whole night, did not move. And I remember saying to my husband, he's absorbing what you're feeling. He feels what you're feeling. And it was really, really interesting to see that connection.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's amazing. And that's the thing with domesticated animals, which is why where the role of an animal communicator and healer really comes in, because we do affect, and not even knowingly, it's not even, they do pick up the stresses that we have. So they have their own, depending on their past, what they've been through before, if they're a rescue or not. And then they take on, who they live with as well. And they very easily can absorb that. So, yeah.
I've even seen with my eldest dog, he's 17. I've even seen with him when I've had clients in the house mentoring, and on occasion he's laid next to the client. So whenever he lays next to the client, I know that there's some major healing going on. Yeah. And when I'd have groups of women here, he would go and lie next to someone, and I shared that with the girls. If he's lying next to you, it's because he knows you need support right now. So really, really interesting. Or whimpering through a session, and then my client asking me what's going on there, and I'm like, it's okay, he's going to stop as soon as you leave.
Yeah, so interesting, isn't it? It's like he's helping, he's offering them healing and helping them release. It's so amazing that I've had a few other clients that do that with their animals. They're like their therapy as well, like even in their professional sense. So yeah, animals are truly amazing, so in touch with their like emotions and the humans' emotions. That's why as an animal communicator, it's great that I'm able to give them a voice, because we don't always ask them. Yeah.
And so with living animals, I know you offer healings and home visits for living animals. For what are the common reasons why people work with you in regards to their animals that are living?
Okay, so for living animals, it would be, and it's quite similar, like you and I do quite similar work in that I do it with animals, and I also work with obviously their owner, but it's so similar really as working with a person, because yeah, like you said, they pick up a lot of our stuff anyway. So a lot of the main things would be like emotional issues. So I don't diagnose, but I would say if someone's dog had anxiety or separation anxiety, then that is something that I would definitely be able to help with, and you know, advise on some different techniques or tools that they can use. If a dog's barking, they don't like to be home alone. So there's some of those issues. So like on the emotional, well, going to physical, if an animal has had surgery or an illness, like that's where I can talk to an animal and ask them what their pain level is from their perspective, and let the owner know, because otherwise we don't know how they feel. It's like a small child, they can't really tell you. So like I've worked with animals that have, one animal that was in bushfires and she had to have major surgery. So I've done a lot of work with her. So my sessions helped with her confidence and sort of becoming a part of the family, because she was a rescue. She wasn't with the family before the fires. And so it helped her in many layers, actually, like emotionally and physically. And then I also work with some animals, or it is just physical. One dog that I work with, he's had like 3 surgeries on his back leg. So I do regular healings for him. And yeah, it's amazing that the difference. So his mum always says, I can tell when you've done a healing, because I do them with a photo. I don't need to be in person. She's like, I always email when I'm completed a session, but she knows anyway. She says, I know, because he's like really active, and yeah, he tells me that he can roll on his back. And for a dog, that's important, right? Like, because they're here to have fun. So when they have more flexibility or they feel happier, that's some of the main things. And you know, some rescue animals, if they've come into a home, and you know, most animals don't dwell on the past like sort of humans do more, but there are still animals that do have issues. So sometimes I can just help with that, and you know, help the owner understand, and they can you know, work through, I guess, processes and tools to help the animal feel more comfortable in the home. Yeah, so there's many different reasons, or people going away wanting to leave their cat or something in a cattery, like, you know, in boarding. So I'll talk to the animal and let them know before they're going, or do a healing when they're there, so they're not upset because of the change of environment.
Beautiful. Now, a few years ago, I actually ran a mindset and wellbeing workshop. A good friend of mine is a dog behavioural therapist up here on the Sunshine Coast, and she had shared with me noticing the connection between the energy of her human client and the energy of the dogs that she works with. And so we ran a wellbeing workshop with, you'll love this, with the dogs
I
and
do
their
love that.
owners. And I got to sit with the owners and explain how your energy is connected to everything, including your pets.
Yes.
And so what are your feelings and thoughts around our human energy affecting our pets?
I definitely agree with you on that. And I love that you did that. It's so wonderful. Yeah, and that's a lot of what I do in my sessions, is talking to the owner, and how I work and how I'm trained is that it's not just like the owner will come to me and say, my animal's doing this, you need to fix them. And it's like any therapy, like everyone has a part to play, or any relationship, and good communication is from everybody involved. So everyone usually has a role to play. Yeah, so I definitely always talk to my clients about their energy and what they can do, and I will give them tools as well that they will need to do. And some of them are like, oh, they notice an immediate difference. And so when they're more, you know, grounded, because that's really important, then their animal can be as well. Yeah, and vice versa. So it's very important. And I love that you ran that one. It's so cool.
That just came to me. I was like, oh, I have to mention
That's amazing. Yeah.
Now, Are you happy to share with some tools, and perhaps for some of our listeners or viewers that are watching this today who perhaps have a barking dog? That seems to be a common theme, or have a dog with anxiety. What are some of the tools, or perhaps one tool that they could use, or is it a personalised circumstance?
Yeah, I think it would be personalized in one sense, because obviously I would ask the animal, I always ask the animal, and even from the client, I will get background information. Like, that's how I do my session. So I have all the information, and then I go in and do a session, and everyone's kind of included. But there would be certain things that would be like for a barking dog. For instance, like, I think getting them, used to you not being at home. So especially, I think this might be quite a big thing, because with COVID, a lot of people were home more. And so now, although we still have it, people are able to go out a bit more. So getting your dog, because if it's barking, I mean, even cats get used to you being home. So, going out for shorter times and getting them used to that, and walking away from the house and doing it in short trips, and seeing how, they cope with that. And I guess, and making sure you're grounded. I think that covers that's a very good thing for all issues. And what else did you say? Barking and anxiety.
Anxiety.
Yeah, so even grounding again. And it would be specific. There would be some specifics, because I would talk to the animal and see what is triggering that more or whatever. But there would be general things like, a flower essences are good. I might recommend something like that, or, giving them tools and teaching them how to ground themselves, and the animal. So yeah, kind of the tools would be kind of similar. And I would just teach them. Essential oils are also another tool, like, that are safe for pets. They have to be safe, and I would never leave them in a closed room with the door closed. Even if they say they're safe, I just wouldn't do that. But yeah, there's some things that, and I think also getting outside is really important. It's like a general thing for everyone, right? Like, or exercising, like, even if you can't go outside and it's raining, spending time with your animal, because sometimes we don't do that one-on-one.
True, because we're busy.
Yes. So sometimes it's like they just want your attention. So, making that little bit of time for them, I feel that, they're very generalized, simple kind of things, but they would be some things that I would probably suggest, without doing a session with somebody, that could help make a difference.
Beautiful. Now, I wanted to ask you, from an animal's perspective,
Yes.
Do you feel that it's important for them to be able to communicate with us? Has that been shared with you at all in any of your communications with animals?
Yeah, I think, well, from my experience with mine, I know that even just talking to an animal, and this makes me, I'm such an emotional, it makes me want to cry even, because it's like amazing. So even just giving them a voice, because that's kind of what I say, and even when I promote with my work, it's giving animals a voice, is letting them, because they feel important, they're like, I'm being heard. So sometimes even just, oh my gosh, a lot of the time they'll call their owner mum or dad. So that's how I will refer to them. So it's like, oh my gosh, they love me so much. They've got someone even to talk to me, so that I can say how I feel. Like, that can even shift things, depending on the circumstances, of course, if it's a bigger issue, but that's one layer that still helps. And so yeah, they definitely like to be heard. And often they'll say they're always talking to their owners anyway. Like, they always are. And if people listen to their intuition, it's kind of, a lot of people say, oh yeah, I did know that anyway. So we kind of all do it usually anyway, like how you're saying with your 17-year-old dog, who what they're doing. So I guess in that way we do, but sometimes we question it and don't trust it. So coming to me, I can confirm some of those things as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. And is your ability something that you're connected to 24/7, or do you dial it down or tune in when you need to?
It's a very interesting question. Because growing up, always been like not knowing and not having tools, yeah, I'm completely open. Wear my heart on my sleeve and I feel everything. And like I'm an empath, so with age and with studying professionally and doing it professionally, I do have to shut off. Although that is, that's work for me to shut it off. And if that makes sense. So yes, I definitely have a lot of practices that I do morning and night and throughout the day to disconnect from everything, because yes, I'm pretty much turned on, like, yeah, all the time. And they will come when, especially if I'm doing a lost animal client or something like that, which they're very, little things will come into my head sometimes. I'll be like, oh, okay, so I might write it down and get it out. But yeah, I try work very hard not to do that, because it's not good for me as well, because it's draining my energy. So yeah, I have to really work at that and use my tools, which is why I feel like I'm also good, and it helps me teach my clients and their animals, because I have to do a lot of the same things to do my job. So it's like, yeah, I can teach them because I have to live it as myself as well. Yeah.
So what kind of practices do you have to make sure that your body needs to be healthy, your mind, body, soul needs to be aligned? So what do you do for yourself to make sure that you're in tip-top condition?
Okay. Many things, and yeah, it's true, it's on all levels. Exercising, like I'm very big on that. Drinking a lot of water, like eating healthy, because it all comes into play in how you I can do my sessions, grounding myself, getting good sleep. And that doesn't mean it's perfect every day, because I'm human, but they're the things that I try to set into place. Disconnecting from my clients, and at the end of the day making sure, and like I have coaches myself, I do self-healing because I do Reiki, so I do that on myself and other healing modalities, but I also see coaches, and I also have therapists, and I also have a team of people that help me if I need it. So I will reach out to people as well, because to be able to help other people, I have to be also in a good place myself. So I guess it's managing my mental and emotional well-being. And that's what I love about my job, because I would do it anyway, but it's like, well, to do my job, I need to be able to do those things. So they're pretty much, most of the things. And learning to, I guess, really have self-love, which is a big, big part of my life, and promoting that to other people, because if you love yourself, then you can spread the love to everybody else, really.
That's just so beautiful to hear. Fills my heart up when someone talks about the importance of loving themselves. I think it's our go-to. It's the first thing we need to go to. And so for you to share that is just awesome. I hope it lands on our listeners' ears and they're like, okay, I've got to take a little bit more care of myself. I've got to love myself a little bit more.
That's right.
It's so special.
Oh, it's so important. And yeah, if we all, we're trusting in to do that, then, because we really can't love anyone else truly until we really do love ourselves, because we can only give what we have. So yeah, it's what I really try to take. And that's where animals are really good, because they really do offer unconditional love also. So they're a great teacher for us to learn from in that aspect as well.
Oh yeah, I look at my dogs sleeping during the day and I'm like, oh.
I know, right? It's just like, they're so beautiful. And it's the same as I have my own animals and I love them. I have I feel like, even though I'm an animal communicator, my cat, can be quite a handful sometimes, but it's good because, I use the tools and the techniques that I teach my clients with him as well. So it's great. But it doesn't mean, I don't have you know, everything doesn't run smoothly for me in my life either. But I think that's what makes and helps someone be a good healer or do what I do, because, you know, I've lived a lot of things that I help my clients with as well.
And we're always learning and growing too. So for that to happen, we have to encounter resistance.
That's
We
right.
have to sometimes go through struggle so that we are learning more, so that we can help. So we're always growing to the next level. So
Correct. Yeah, that's what I always think. It's always another layer to take off and learn. And while we're here on Earth, and you know, animals really teach us that as well. And I guess when you have a session, it helps your animal, but it helps you, and that's ultimately the whole thing of it as well. It's like it helps the whole family. Like I know I do healing sessions for a dog regularly, and yeah, the whole family benefits. Like,
I love that.
yeah, because the owner will say, you know, it's the house is calmer when, and he's only having healing sessions, but it does, just like how your dog, right? Just like ripple, because if they're giving so much away, then that's where it's good that I can come in and then give them healing, because yeah, they're giving it away. Just like if we do, they need to be refilled, and sometimes it may be just too much that they're not able to do it themselves. So it's okay to have a little help from somebody or the universe. You know, Reiki is, I'm just a channel from the universal energy.
I just had an aha moment when you said when you're helping your animal, you're helping the family. And it made me realize when I'm helping someone's child, I'm also helping the family. So
Yes.
that just dropped in, and I was just like, okay.
It's such a ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
It's
That is
never
so
just
cool.
that one. Yeah. So it's like amazing. Yeah. And that's how the world changes.
Now,
And is filled with love.
yes. Now, in what ways can our listeners today engage with your services if they're interested and they're feeling drawn to?
Okay. So I offer telephone sessions, and I offer them worldwide. So if they prefer Zoom or whatever, but you know, telephone, and then if they want to, you know, face to face, I do home visits as well in Sydney, because that's where I am. And I also do email sessions. So and people, I know some people are like, how do you do that? But I'm trained to actually be work with a photo or the animal in person. And to me, it doesn't really make a difference.
So how does a distance healing work for somebody that's hearing this for the first time today? As I offer distance healings as well. How does that work?
Okay, so for a distance healing, they would book through my website. If they had any questions, I'm always happy to talk to somebody. And some people like that. So I'll, may have initial talk with somebody, but they would book a session and tell me what the healing was for and a little bit of background information. And especially for an animal, I like to know, if they're on any medication with the vet and whatever, just so that I know what they're on, and I keep a record of that. And then they will send the photo, the information. I will do the healing session, and then I will send an email back once it's complete with all the information, so that the information will come through in that healing session. If they want to ask questions, they would buy a communication session on top of the healing, but I will still get information. And so I will send that back, whatever the animal says. And then whatever their treatment, there'll be some tools maybe as well in that healing session for the animal to do, and possibly the human, depending on what it is. And that will be sent back, and then they'll know that the session's complete. So it's quite, and yeah, I worked with a client in France about a month ago with her cat. So that was really amazing.
Yeah, that is awesome. And do they need to be, is it at a set time, the distance healing, or can you do the distance healing and they can go about their normal life?
Yeah, so the way I do it is by distance. So I sort of say absent healing. So because they don't need to know the time, that obviously they know it's happening. I would never do it without anyone's permission, because often my client will say, oh, I knew I could feel it. Like even if it's from the animal, they'll feel if they're sensitive to energy, often, yeah, they'll feel it. They're like, I knew you were doing the healing, because, you know, they'll reply to my email. So they can go about their day, and the same with the animal, they can go about their day, because I will just do it. That they will know, like, they've booked it, and that it will just happen within, you know, a certain amount of time. So they have that time frame, but they don't need to do anything. They can be at work while I do it for the animal, which is why it's great when, you know, a person's returning to work, or, you know, I've had a client where she has hospital visits, so I do healings for her cat, so she's settled. So it's quite easy in that sense, and I just connect with the animal through a photo and I need to see their eyes. So I need to see their face with their eyes, and that's how I kind of connect with their energy, and then, yeah, that's how I do it. So it's really easy in a way.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And when you get the results, like even with the cat, like when she was in France, and I've had other clients overseas as well, but just some certain, you know, how much feedback I guess I get from the client, and I always get great feedback, but it's just really it hits my heart too that I'm able to help them, because usually they're quite stressed out. The client is quite upset about the animal, because I do emergency healings as well, which I'll do them within like a 2-day period. If they're not urgent, they may take 7 days or a bit longer. So I do have that for urgent clients. And so obviously, you know, we're not talking about curing, you know, major illnesses and things like that, but what it is about doing is making them more comfortable, reducing their pain. And you never really know what a healing can do, because if the intention is there, miracles can happen. Yeah.
Now, for families that have more than one animal and they want to work with you with all their animals, how do the healings work in that case?
Okay, and I'm just thinking what packages I have on my website, because I offer so many different things, and that's why some people are like not really sure, so they can always email me or you know, call and just say which one would be better. So just thinking, if with multiple animals for a healing, I'd offer, I think, a package for 2 animals, so it's a little bit cheaper if they have 2. I haven't gone beyond 2, but if they have 1 animal and they want like a number of sessions, like I offer different packages as well, so that, you know, if they want 6 sessions, you know, for the next 6 months, once a month or whatever, they can buy that. With animal communication, I usually the most I've ever done, I think, is 3 animals in a session, because it's a lot of, so each connection to an animal is like, it's a separate connection, if that makes sense, like how I connect to them energetically. So I normally keep it to a maximum really of 3, but generally I might do 2 animals in a session. I have worked with a lady and done an email session, and she had 4 cats. That was quite a big session, and I did that over like a number of days, like, because it was like when you're working with your children, sibling rivalry and things like that. So that was one of my biggest cases, actually. But I generally, like, if I was to do a home visit, I wouldn't, you know, it may have to be broken up into a couple of sessions, or if it was a telephone and there was a number of them, it may have to be broken up into a couple of sessions, just so that the animal gets what they need out of it as well, not just me. And that, yeah, because it does take quite a bit of energy working with the different ones. Yeah.
Do you have any offerings or anything that you're doing at the moment that you'd be happy to share with us today?
Like, do you mean
anything special that you're doing with your work, or anything that you'd love to direct our attention to that feels right for you?
I probably not anything in particular, like, but I'm always like, you know, I always work with my heart with my work, I guess, and that's really important. And I did have a really great session last Saturday with an animal. Did you want me to share like about that? Because this lady had contacted me, quite distraught, And cut a long story short, because it was quite a long story, but her dog had had puppies. It was not planned, and she was told she was too young to have puppies, and it was with a bigger dog. So she'd had an emergency cesarean and had 6 puppies. The vet could only do so much. They all survived, but the vet sent her home and said, the dog could not take more than Panadol or something mild, because she was feeding the puppies, and any stronger medication would affect them. So the poor dog was in a lot of pain. She's like trying to feed these puppies with a cesarean cut. So she wouldn't even clean them or groom them. She wasn't feeding them, and she was actually growling, and they were having to attach the baby. So I did a session for her, and it was very rewarding. And she's now they noticed immediate change, and within 24 hours she was her instinct had kicked in to feed them and clean them. All puppies had survived, and it was very stressful for the lady too, because that's where an animal communicator can kind of come in. That's why I like to also talk about that story, because it's like there's that gap there where there's no one else that can do that. It's a great opportunity to contact an animal communicator, and the circumstances was so less stressful for the lady and the dog. So I really feel that that was massive for the lady, and just by contacting me. So I did communication and a healing session with that girl. Her name was Daisy. And that was huge, and that's why I do what I do. After that session, I was like, that's why I do what I do, to help people.
Thank you so much for the work that you do, Kelly. It's amazing what you're doing, and you're bridging the gap between the two worlds, and helping us to connect to our animals on a more meaningful level. And I think it's really, really important. And so I'm really happy to be able to introduce you to my community today, and for your community to find out more about you, because often when I'm interviewing healers and teachers, you don't get to share your personal story or why you do what you do. You're just doing the service, right? So this is a wonderful space for you to be able to, for your community to be able to get to know you better.
That's right, and I really appreciate that, and I love the work that you do. I'd love to know more about what you do too, which you did share a little bit. But it's so interesting. It's so important that I love that we support each other. Working in the healing context. Yeah.
It's amazing. So thank you. I will share all the links below this interview, whether you're listening to it on my podcast show or whether you're watching it on YouTube, on Kelly's YouTube channel. All the links will be below this post so that you can go and check out whatever it is that you feel drawn to going and check out. So thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me today. It was great.